All right, hello. Let's talk about flights. Go ahead and open your application. And on the bottom, you'll see the Flights tab, which is highlighted here on the screen. Press the Flights tab, you'll be taken to your blank list of flights. We don't have any flights entered yet. So we're going to start out with a blank slate, just like you will when you first install Aircrew. I'm going to go ahead and show you how to navigate through your flight list here. Since we don't have any information, it may not make complete sense, but once we do add some flights, it'll all come together for you. I do have here right and left arrows up at the top, as you can see. And if I go ahead and select the right arrow, I'm taken to February 2015. These arrows do increment by month. So once again, if I hit the right button, I'll be taken to March 2015. If I hit the back button, I'll be back to February, back to January, and then December 2014. If I want to jump to a month that's further away, and I'd rather not scroll with using the back and forward arrows, if I press on the middle there, the text that says 2014 December, if I press on that, I'm taken to my select month and year picker. Here I can select any month and any year I'd like. You can go back as far as you want. If you have flight records that exist back in 1962, 63, 55, it doesn't matter. You can go ahead and add those records or actually view them here. So if I go ahead and select February 1960, you'll see I'm taken to my flight list from February 1960. I do not have any flights, so obviously it's going to be blank. So let's go ahead and add a flight so I can show you how or what happens when what the list view will look like once I do add a flight. Up in the top right corner of the screen, I'm going to go ahead and press the plus icon. When here I'm taken to my add flight form. You see there's several fields here for you to enter, but we're going to start at the top and work our way down. And as we work through this, you'll start to see that it really doesn't take much time to enter a flight. Your first couple flights it may, just because you're trying to get used to it, and then our fields down here, which we'll discuss here in a little bit, take some time to set up, but once you do, it takes very little time to enter a flight. So let's start here at the top under flight number. I'm going to go ahead and enter flight number 111. Under that is the departure date. If I select the field, I'll be taken to my departure date picker, where I can go ahead and select the departure date of the flight. I'm just going to go ahead and leave the date as today. And then under departure city, if I select a departure city field, I'm taken to my cities list. I only have one city on the list at this point, San Francisco International Airport. So I'm going to go ahead and select it. And then I'm going to go down to my arrival city, and I'm going to go ahead and search the airport directory for a new city to add to my cities list. So I'm going to press the Add City button on the top right of the screen. Taken to my airport directory. As I said in the cities video, if you've watched that, there are over 10,800 airports in my airport directory. Once I select it, it goes onto my cities list. I do not need to enter it again, so it will always exist on my cities list once I select it from the airport directory. So in this example, I'm going to go ahead and select Denver International Airport, so DEN is the 3-digit airport code. If I type in Denver, just Denver by itself, the list gets smaller. If I type in Denver International Airport, you'll see here that it exists. So you can search by airport name, city name, or the 3-digit airport code. So I'm going to go ahead and select Denver International Airport, and I'm going to press it again, and now it's my arrival city. Under my departure time, I'll go ahead and put noon or 12 p.m. And then my arrival time I'll say is it's going to be 3 p.m. It was a 2-hour flight, but with the time change since Denver is 1 hour later than San Francisco. Here under departure time and arrival time, I'm going to point out it does not automatically calculate your block hours. So if you note below here under block hours, I'm actually going to go ahead and enter 2 hours and 0 minutes. Block hours you have to enter manually for 2 reasons. The first reason is you may use your schedule on a specific time zone. So you may keep all of your trips, no matter where you're at around the world, you keep it on New York East Coast time. So there's one reason. And then the second reason is we've noticed that in our testing of the application that it's very easy to input the wrong time on the departure time and arrival time. For some reason, as you're looking at these numbers and all the other data, I don't know if your eyes get confused or your eyes get crossed after a while, but it is very easy to enter the wrong time, the wrong AM, PM, and so your block hours obviously will not calculate properly. So your departure and arrival time don't necessarily mean much. But when you do look at your list view, it does sort your flights by time. So it's important to have those times in there, but it's not necessarily important to have them correct because your block hours you actually do enter manually. Under your position flown, if I press that field, I'm taken to position flown list. These are the positions that I've entered into my application already, or my version of the application already. So you would actually personalize this list to yourself. So for example purposes here, I'm going to go ahead and press the plus icon on the top, and I'm just going to go ahead and type in first officer and press submit, and you'll see that first officer has appeared on my list. Now, when you first open the application, it is blank. There's nothing on here. So you'll need to enter the positions or position that you work. If you're a captain, obviously, you'd probably just want to put captain. If you're a first officer, you may just want to put first officer. There's also you may also want to put passenger. So let's say you're flying a leisure flight and you want to put your position flown as a passenger. You can go ahead and do that as well. And as we go back to our add flight form and I go down, I'll show you why that may be an option that you'd like to use. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and select captain as my position flown. And I'm going to go ahead and select the captain field again, or the position flown field again. So I'm going to show you that if I swipe to the left of any of the positions, let's say I decided I don't want it in there, I can actually delete it from the list. So it will be deleted. Keep in mind, if that position is connected to any other flight record, it will be deleted off of the flight. It won't delete the flight, but it will be deleted off of the flight. So it will no longer exist. You have to go back and enter a new position. If I want to edit, all I have to do here is press the edit button. So under A position, I'm going to select edit, and I can go ahead and change it. Let's say I just want to put A. So I'll just have it as A. And if you change it here, it's going to update on all the records that A position flown is attached to. So I'm going to go ahead and press captain again, because I'm going to keep my field as captain. If I press the red X on the side, it'll delete it. Let's say I don't want to enter a position, I decided not to, then it'll delete, but I'm going to go ahead and press position flown again and add captain again. Underneath that is flight type. I press on flight type. I have 9 or 10 different options here to choose from, and we've added these these positions on or flight types on the list here based on different flight types in the industry. You may have others that you would like to see on the list. If so, please email us at support@goflymedia.com and we'll get it added to the list so that you can use that flight type. But the list is pretty standard here: working, deadhead, commuting, leisure, so on and so forth. This particular flight, I'm going to select working. The aircraft type, here again, it would be a blank list when you first install the application. You need to add your own aircraft, the aircraft that your airline flies, or if you have your own private plane, you can enter text and numbers, it doesn't matter, and you can put exactly what you want it to say. So it works the same as the position flown list. You can edit the field. So if I select edit under 737-800, you'll see that you can edit it here. I'm going to select cancel. If I go up to the top right and press the plus icon, I can go ahead and add another aircraft. So I can say Boeing just 747, just for example purposes here. And then, of course, if you want whatever aircraft you want to add to your flight, I'll just select it. So I'm going to go ahead and select Airbus 320. And then my aircraft tail number, it's just if the airplane maybe has a name, you can put the name in, or if it's just a number, you can put the number. That's up to you. So I'm going to go ahead and put 678. And the passenger count, I had 145 passengers on this flight. Next, I can add my crew members to my flight. So you can attach as many crew members as you want. So down below, I'm going to press the plus icon here. And here I'm taking my crew members list. I do not have any crew members on my crew members list, so I'm going to go ahead and add a couple here. So I press the plus icon on the top right, and I'm going to enter John Smith. And his ID number is 12345. And top right, I'll hit save. and you'll see his name appear on the list. And if I select the name, it'll be added to my crew member list there. So I'm going to add another. Press the plus icon on the top right, and I'm going to say Sarah Jones. Her ID number is 9999. Top right corner, press save. And you'll see her name appear here on the list. Now, if I want to search for a crew member, I can go up here in the search field, and if I type in S.A., you'll see Sarah Jones here. It pops right up at the top. I can also search by ID number. That just makes it easier once you do start accumulating a bunch of crew member names on your crew list. It'll make it easier for you to find. So I'm going to go ahead and select Sarah Jones. She was also another crew member on my flight. So I have the crew members there. And I can keep notes of the flight if I'd like. In this example, we're not going to type anything. It's pretty self-explanatory. So in the top right corner, I'm going to go ahead and press save. And you'll see my flight has been saved. Here we're taken to the flight details page where you can see all the information we just entered. So you've got your flight number, departure date, and so on and so forth there. It's pretty self-explanatory. At the top of the screen, I see a button that says times 2. If I press that times 2 button, I'm taken to my date to copy flight picker. So I can choose to copy this flight to any date I want. And this is a handy tool if, let's say, you've had 2 or 3 flights in the same day, your crew members stay the same, your position stays the same, your airplane stays the same, your flight type stays the same. You don't need to re-enter all that information. So if I decide to copy the flight, I'm going to go ahead and copy it for the same date, January 17th, 2015. So if I go ahead and press done, my flight has been copied. Now, in most situations, we can now say, okay, that flight's now secured twice. So I'm going to go ahead and edit this version. Then I hit the edit button, and I can go ahead and edit my next flight right here. Now, when I go back to my flight list, both the flights will be there. So I'm going to hit cancel, and I'm going to take you back to the flight list by hitting the back button. And you can see that that flight now exists twice because I copied it. So if I click on one of them, I can go ahead and I'm going to hit the edit button on the top right. Now I'm going to go ahead and edit this flight. The flight number actually stayed the same because it was actually a through flight. So when I got to Denver, we stayed on the same plane, and we're going to head on over to JFK. So the date stays the same. The departure city is going to change to Denver. So I'm going to go to my cities list, press Denver, and I press on the arrival city there. I'm going to add a new city to my list since JFK doesn't exist. So in the top right corner, I'll select Add City, and I'll type in JFK. Select it, and now it'll appear on my cities list. If I go ahead and select JFK, it now appears on my arrival city field. My departure time was 3:30 p.m. And we arrived in New York at about 8:30. Actually, let's say 9:30 p.m. local time. So there we go, and it was a 4-hour flight, and my position stayed the same. It was a working flight, same aircraft, same tail number. The passenger count, we had about 125 people going on that flight. My crew stayed the same, so I don't need to do anything there. And then when I go up top right corner, hit save. You can just see how fast that was. It only took us maybe 25 seconds to update the information, and that was with me talking in the background. When you're doing it yourself, it could take you, as little as 5 to 10 seconds to add a new flight. If I go down here and I see my crew members there, I can select that detail indicator on the right side of their name, or right side of their ID number there. If I press that, you'll see I'm taken to my crew details page where I can see all of their information. We don't have all the information filled in since we just entered their names very quickly. If I want to update that information, I can go to the crew tab down here on the bottom, and I can do that there. But since we're in the flight section, we do not have the option to edit. We can just view the information. You'll see here under my history, I have 2 flights that I've flown with John Smith. So if I select that 2, you'll see I'm taken to the 2 flights that I flew with him, and I can reference those flights as well by selecting the detail indicator. But since we're looking at the flight already in the flight section, it's not really necessary to do that because I can just hit the back button and view the flight. But if I want to see a different flight, of course, this is a good tool to use that detail indicator. So I'm going to hit the back button again. And you can also see here that those 2 flights calculated to be a distance of 2,583 miles. So all the flights that I've flown with John Smith are going to the total sum of all those miles or kilometers, if you have it set up as kilometers in your settings, will appear here. So that's a neat tool as well. So I'm going to hit the back button, and I'm brought back to my flight details page. Now I'm going to hit the back button again. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to show you the map tool that we have here. And if you go to your flight, it will actually, if you hit that map icon on the top header, it go ahead and maps your flight out for you. It's a pretty neat tool. If you have more than one flight, you can see them all on here once we get to our trip section. But for when you're in your flight details, you can view that one flight, take a snapshot, send it if you'd like. If you select the pin on there, you'll see that you can select each city individually to view their 3-digit airport code. If I go up to the top and select all, you will see all of the airport annotations appear above their red pin there. If I go up to map type, and I can go down and select a satellite or hybrid view, I'm going to select hybrid. You can also see the flight on the hybrid view of the map. So I'm going to go ahead and select the back button, and I'm going to hit the back button again, and now we're taken to our flight list view, which we were discussing earlier. So you can see here now that my flights have been entered for January 17th, and if I add more flights for different dates, the top of the section where it says January 17th, you'll see those dates populate as a red header just like that, and they'll be all listed. If I press the forward arrow and go to February, there's still nothing on my list. If I hit the back arrow and go back to January, my flights, or all my January flights, are listed there. So it's a pretty easy, and it's a very quick way to access your flights. Hopefully you'll find it as easy as well. If I want to view my details, as mentioned before, for the flight, if I just select that detail indicator on the right of the cell, it'll take me to the details, and I have the option to copy or map it or edit the flight as I please. So I'm going to hit the back button. If I want to delete a flight off the list, all I have to do is swipe to the left and press delete, and the flight, I'll get an alert that says, "Are you sure you want to delete this flight?" If so, it will be removed from the calendar and any trips or crew member data it is related to. So obviously you would lose, as we were showing you before, under the crew member, we have one flight or two flights with the mileage. It'll erase that flight from the calculation, so you won't see it there. And if I had it added to a trip, which you can see in the trip tutorial, if you've watched that already or haven't, you'll be able to see how we can add flights to our trips. It'll be taken off the trip as well. So I'm going to select OK, and now you'll see that it has been removed from my list. That's the flight section. Actually, before we go, I'm going to show you one more thing. If I go down to my tools on the right side of the tab bar, and I'm going to go to my resume. So as you're entering all this data into your flight section, you can actually view the total results here in your resume. So if you've got several flights over a span of time, you can actually see all the data calculated together. So let me show you that real quick. We only have one flight, and we do have a tutorial on resume, so you can see more data displayed on here. But I'm going to go ahead and show you here. Under resume, if I select the resume option, I can go ahead and select the dates that I would like to view those statistics. So I'm going to go ahead and select January 1st of 2015, and I'll go ahead and select till the 31st. Now we only have one flight within those dates, so just the statistics for that one flight is going to appear. So I hit display, and in our resume, you can see at the top it says January 1st to January 31st. And I can see my trip records. I don't have any trips entered, so there's nothing listed there. Under flight records now, it shows I have one flight that I flew. I flew a total of 125 passengers. I flew one day. And then under flight types, I worked one flight for 1,619 miles for 4 hours. Now, if I had other flight types such as commuting, deadheading, leisure, you'd see all of those listed along with the amount of flights, the mileage, and the block hours. So for commuters, if you're a commuter, you can actually see how many flights, how many miles, and how many hours you've spent commuting over any span of time. So that may be an interesting statistic for you. Maybe something that get a good conversation starter. I flew this much commuting. So on, or if you travel a lot leisurely, you can see how much you fly leisurely and compare it to how much you work, and so on and so forth. And then underneath that, you have your position flown. So if you, say you're a flight attendant and you've worked several different positions, within a certain range of dates, you can see there totals all your flights, mileage, or kilometers. If you have it in your settings as kilometers and your block hours for all those different positions. If you're a pilot and you've flown captain, first officer, you can compare that as well. And then under your aircraft types, it lists all of your aircraft types just the same. So whatever trips you've added your Airbus 320, or excuse me, all your flights you've added Airbus 320, it'll show you the total flights, mileage, kilometers, and block hours that you've flown on that aircraft type. So that's a pretty neat tool there, and this is kind of the end game, so to speak, of entering all the information. Your resume shows you the overall encompassing of all of your hard work there, and all the flying that you've done. So we'll go over the resume in the resume tutorial, but that's just a quick snapshot of where this flight data gets calculated, so that you can use it for your personal enjoyment, or you can share it with other folks by using the share icon up here at the top right. And again, we'll go over that in the resume tutorial. If you have any questions, please email us, support@goflymedia.com. Have a wonderful day and safe travels.